Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. This is a gorgeous day out here today. I'm excited. And there's been a little bit of conflict between resellers. There always has been. I did a video, You Might Be a Reseller If, and that was many moons ago. I did a couple of them. We talked about some of those differences way back then and just some funny stuff that all resellers kind of share. But I wanted to look at what are the very current things that all of us are disagreeing about, and some of you disagree with me about today, and get into the weeds on some of these issues that some people take really seriously, and we're going to look at those and some cool sales. Let's take a look. Y'all, I remember how, well, quite frankly, how stupid some of the arguments were. It's dark back here. I got to turn my AC off, turn the light on. Some of these arguments that when I started YouTube, people are actually having like real arguments about, like what kind of thermal printer you use, or should you buy a thermal printer? Is it a waste of money? And there's other issues like that. We'll rehash those really quick, but then we'll get into the ones that people are passionate about now. And it's like how things have changed, right? So this, and of course, I always used to argue about people with SKU systems because I'm like, you know, whatever. But, you know, I honestly believe to each his own on stuff, right? And of course, for most people, it is a necessity if you want to grow your business. Lily Bloom Christmas bag. That's kind of cool. I like that one. Sold for $18 plus shipping. I actually remember arguing with, you know, Uncle Steve Picker, and I was like, how are y'all still literally just printing your labels out on paper and cutting them and taping them on? I'm like, it's costing you so much money to do it that way just because of the time. But those are, you know, silly in comparison to what we talk about now, you know, over the last few years. You know, is it worth, I remember the niche down argument, boy, people were passionate about it, and there was videos made about it. Is it better to niche down, or is it better to be an everything seller? And people would like go at each other. It's like, this is ridiculous, because there truly is, you know, different options for different people based on what you want to do. But some of these I think are really interesting. We're going to dive into them today. They're not stupid ones. They're not what type of box resizer should you use, or should you ship, you know, priority mail versus this, or should you use FedEx or whatever, and all those issues we've talked about. These are a little bit more in depth. I love these topics. And honestly, if I'm being honest here, I go back and watch some of my videos, and I would say, you know, flippant things about people that sell postcards, for instance. And I've got some great postcard people that watch me, and I would say things like, I cannot imagine doing that. You know, I can't imagine selling a postcard for $4. And now I know quite a few people who do postcards and do really well, and it's made me rethink even those things, like media. I used to be like, how can anybody sell media for a living? It's like, I don't understand how they do it. And man, I tell you what, the more I know about reselling, the more I realize there's money to be made just about anywhere, even Beanie Babies. Did I say that out loud? Well, maybe not Beanie Babies, but you get the point. Cypress Hill, lot of 8 CDs headed out of here, $37.95 plus shipping. I remember one time in the early days, I remember Pete Craigslist Hunter said, somebody asked him a question, I don't know if it was a live or whatever, if he was reading it, and said, you know, how much can somebody make in a year, you know, legitimately just going to yard sales? And I think his answer was, you know, 50 grand. They could easily make 50 grand. He said it might be hard to get far past that if it's a one-man show just doing garage sales, or a one-woman show. And this was a long time ago, right? So before inflation even. And I thought, yeah, I think he's right. I mean, that's what I was doing at the time. And boy, there was a lot of people in that comments that were like, you're a liar and you can't do that. You know, nobody can make that much money going to garage sale. I'm like, geez. Then there was a lot of people saying, you know, because I think he said something like, it'd be hard to get above that if that's all you're doing is sourcing at garage sales and doing whatever. And it all depends on where people live. I imagine up there where they live, it's a little colder. It might really be hard to scale, for sure. And now I think the last time I answered that question, I was like, yeah, I think depending on where you live, you can make 100 grand just at yard sales. And boy, people blew up in my comments like, that just is impossible and whatever. I'm like, it is probably hard for some people, don't get me wrong. And I don't know how much you can scale past that if it's just garage sales without a consistent source. And so, but boy, people get heated about this stuff. So we're looking at the things that people are getting heated about right now. So I did a little bit of research. I kind of narrowed it down to the last couple of years and really got close to right now what's going on. And really none of, well, I shouldn't say none of it surprised me. This is a Janko shirt, y'all. JNCO. And if you know that name, you know that name for sure. That one sold for 28 bucks, $27.95 plus. Nope, $27.97 was 30% off plus shipping. I'd say you go back like 3-4 years, the biggest debate was what I mentioned earlier, niching down versus an everything seller. And then you go back 2 or 3 years, and the biggest debate, and it's still here, is cross-posting or just selling on one marketplace. I think there is quite a bit, there was at one point quite a bit of argument about it, right? Now it's like people went their own way, and it's like it's just part of the business. Some people do it, it makes sense for them. Full-timers do it more than people who are part-time, but I know a lot of full-timers who don't do it at all. I honestly think with a lot of these issues, some of these are interesting, to say the least. It really does, truthfully, this is not a cop-out answer. It boils down to who you are, what you're doing, how much time you have. Is it part-time? Is it full-time? Are you retired? You doing it for fun? You doing it for necessity? And there's arguments on both sides of this question. And I know a ton of folks, you know, we have a list perfectly linked down there and stuff. Ton of folks who have used it, love it. Ton of folks who have tried it, don't do it, you know, and all the different cross-listing and everything like that. And my position is going to be the same. It just fully depends on who you are and how you sell. But boy, there used to be fights about it. And I had people unsub because I said this or whatever. And I'm just like, hey, I'm going to continue to introduce people to different things because different things work for different people and they like them and some people don't. But I'm more interested in some of these other ones. I'm just going to start going down the list. And I try to narrow it down so we could get closer and closer to right now. And I do think that we've talked about 4 years ago, the debates, you know, well, 8 years ago for that matter. 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. And about 2 years ago, the biggest debate really kind of divided resellers up. And it still is there, but it's becoming less and less. There'll be something else come along. Matter of fact, it already has. We'll talk about that at the end. And this thing will fade into the past as well as people will find their own paths. I really tried to, I used ChatGPT and some other things and tried to get them narrowed down to issues between resellers, not the conflict from the outside world to resellers. And it did an okay job, but it kind of screwed up a little bit. But once it got to those issues that are really between resellers, it hit on every issue I thought it would. And it also put them in the order of most important, which I asked for. I disagree with it. Maybe you will too. Nintendo DS car charger. It's not worth very much, but we sold it for $8.50 plus shipping. There's one that could be on there that I hear all the time. Is it worth selling a $10 item? It is for some people, and it's not for some people. This had it as the #1 issue. The race to the bottom in pricing. Probably the #1 fight, undercutting each other on reselling platform. Impacts everyone's margins, creates resentment. And I don't think this is the #1. Although I do have 2 people that I call friend that had this famous debate probably just over a year ago. And it was an interesting one for sure. So that's the #1. I don't agree with that. See, this is #2. This is what I'm talking about. Scalping versus normal reselling. To me, that's really not a debate inside of our circles as much, although it is. We've talked about that before on the podcast. And I think that's more of an issue from the outside looking in. But resellers are divided. Sneaker drops, game consoles, and hot toys. Easy money, but bad reputation. Some say it's smart hustle. Others think it ruins the reselling name. I have seen those debates. I have been criticized by other resellers with some of these things that I've done, but I really, to be honest with you, I have done so very little of that over the years that it's never really been an issue to me. That's not my love. I'm not going to get on there, and I'm not a tech whiz, and I can't do all that stuff. I could care less about that. I'd rather go to a garage sale and find something. But there is a segment of our reselling community that really can't stand people that do this. I guess if I had to fall on one side of it, the Pokemon thing, right? I can't see me going in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. If I had the opportunity and just like fighting somebody and pushing a cart around, that's not me. And I don't think I would ever do that. I'm not going to criticize folks that hunt these things down and buy a bunch of them up, retail arbitrage and stuff like that. I think for me, it depends on the way you do it. I mean, if there's somebody sitting there waiting in line with you, 2 people behind, I just couldn't see myself doing it. It's my opinion. And then is thrifting ethical? That's not a debate inside of our circles, I don't think. Transparency on sourcing. This one I think is interesting. I've got 4 posters headed out of here today. A lot of 2, a single and another single. And I'm going to do these without the camera. I'll put them up on the screen. Here's the John Elway one. I know that's sold. I hate shipping posters. It doesn't take forever. You could take the big box and you fold it down and make it a triangle and all that. But I've got to find these really quick. You're seeing them right now on the screen. I got these ready and I thought, here's a tiny little debate. I hadn't heard somebody say, don't ever put a rubber band on a poster. And I actually agree. But I found this little trick that I do. I take one of my stickers and I put it right there. The problem is the rubber band's right where the actual ending is, because that's where you get the tears. I've never had an issue doing it that way. If you don't like that, maybe you can use one of these, make it a little bigger. And I think it's helpful. Maybe somebody's got a better trick out there than I use, but that's what I do. And it's, like I said, never had an issue. $16.80 for 2, $16.80 for the Scrooge, $14 for this one. I'll head it out. This is an old debate, but it never dies, so it's a current debate too. Transparency on sourcing, sharing your honey holes versus gatekeeping. Gatekeeping your source, right? Big community tensions. That'll lead into another one I actually wrote down that's not on here, but it kind of goes with this. And that has to do with folks like me, right, on social media, because there's a lot of people, just go to Reddit, you'll find them, that think it's the worst thing in the history of the world that people on social media talk about thrifting and reselling and all that stuff, because everybody else gets on it. So they want to gatekeep that stuff. And to be honest with you, I think there's some legitimacy to those arguments. Not necessarily, I mean, look, the cat's been out of the bag for 10 years on some of this stuff. But if you have an individual place that you source from, I know resellers who do, and they don't want to say a darn thing. Matter of fact, I've brought some of this stuff up before. And when I'll go out, every once in a while I have a private pick. And they're usually private estate sales, where there's not enough to run a full-blown estate sale, do all the advertising, hire people to come in and help you do the estate sale. And so they just simply go into the house, and then they have 8, 10, 20 contacts that buy different things and say, all right, come on in here. And when that happens to me, I usually go in and I buy, because even if the price is a little high, because I want that opportunity. Happened to me the other day, actually. That's not necessarily a secret or something unethical. I think you got to put yourself in a situation where you get those phone calls. And there's different things like that I have no problem with whatsoever. I mean, I do them. I do have a problem if you have a charity shop like a Goodwill that is doing that it's, you know, their prerogative, I suppose. But man, I know people who do this too. They're backdoor Goodwillers, and they have a contact in Goodwill, which is against Goodwill policy as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, stuff like that happens. So anyway, that one is an argument. I wouldn't put it on the top of the list because it doesn't relate to most folks, but that's an issue for sure. The next one on the list is what I believe to be the biggest divide amongst resellers. Has been for some time, will be for some time, although there's another issue that's cropping up really quickly. So this one right here, this whole thing was full over there. We sold a bunch of these Carousel, Goldwell Carousel frizz controls. Bought them a bunch at a sale, I think for $1. They were all listed for $2. And I was like, I'll buy every single one on the table for $1. And they said, yes, $18, $17.95 plus shipping. It should come as no surprise, live selling versus traditional listing. And I do think there is an emerging middle ground for folks, and a lot of people doing both. I do think there's some misinformation out there. I want to talk about that as well. So, you know, live sellers moving volume, but often tank prices. The loyalists on the traditional websites think lives cheapen the game. Well, now it's an interesting mix because eBay's added this live selling component, and it's not just the us or them. I'm an eBay seller or whatever. Now it's all becoming mixed together. It seemed inevitable to me at some point that this was going to be a big deal. It was going to become the inside part of reselling. I saw the benefit for both. In other words, to me, it's not that much different than, say, high bid was, where people were buying in bulk or buying, you know, cheaper on a volume type basis and using it and selling one-offs over on eBay or wherever. And then the combining of those two in platforms that are live selling like Whatnot and like ours, or here Dibbed It and whatever, where there's a mix, right? There's both. Even though eBay is way heavily weighted towards static sales and has live selling, you know, my site, all these different sites and Whatnot and whatever are the inverse of that. But it seems to me, I know so many people, there are tons of people in my own little marketplace who source there and source there and source there. They are resellers. Nobody in the world needs all this stuff for personal use. And so there's this middle ground now that's emerging where, like my buddy Jimmy, Old School Flips, he's a static seller at his heart. And he's over there selling live, and he's buying more. And I'm doing the same. And so you're utilizing both methods. Where I think it was an issue for a lot of people early was a lot of resellers just chose to use the live selling part as a way to sell their cast-offs. And you go and you watch these shows, it's like, good night almighty. And I had to learn that lesson. It's like, nobody's going to want to watch my show if it's just your cast-off. It's not going to happen. And so I've just simply been buying more in quantity and putting good stuff in both places. It's been good for me, for sure. So, but that's still out there. And there's still a lot of people in the, right, you know, if you do that, you're just an idiot. You know, why would you sell a $100 thing for $40? Great argument. Don't have a problem with the argument. I can see, though, I've made this argument on the podcast many times, where if you have sourcing such that you can add on to your business without subtracting, in other words, you can make the money on the volume and make more. That's what I'm trying to prove here, y'all, if you haven't figured it out, is that my best year live selling, I also wanted to be my best year static selling. And we're well on the way, which we'll put up the numbers here in a couple of days. Making slow progress in here, trying to get rid of a bunch of stuff. And this big old toolbox, so I'll show it to you outside. I think more and more over the last year, people are coming to the conclusion it's a part of the fabric of reselling at this point. And some people have gone completely this way, some people have gone completely this way, and then there's some people in the middle. And I think there's less animosity about it, but it's still out there, y'all. Just look in the chats, without a doubt. This, I think, was a Death Pile Picker deal, part of the giant lot. I think, Mike, if you're out there listening, because I don't remember buying that, and it looks like a headache to me, and I saw it when it was in your pile. I'm like, man, I don't want to deal with that thing. I think that's right. Maybe I did buy it. I don't know. Either way, I'm glad I did, because this sucker sold for good money. I think just under $200. Yeah, $189.95 plus shipping. Quantity hoarding. The other one I looked up, it said Death Pile something. What did it say? Death Pile Lifestyle or something like that. I think that doesn't correspond to this. Their argument here is quantity hoarding versus leave some behind for others. And I think that goes into the other part where the scalping kind of thing. Clear the shelves or leave items for others. Causes a big debate in thrift and retail arbitrage circles. I don't know. If I'm at a yard sale, I want to make the big buy. If somebody else is looking at it, I try to be polite and say, hey, I'm going to buy this whole thing. Would you like to pick a couple out? Especially if I know they're not a reseller. And I did that the other day. And I've seen people fight over stuff like that. I was piecemealing something out, and I had pulled a couple of items. I literally had them in my hand. And a guy came up. This was in, I think this was at FlipCon a few years ago. I think I was with Mel back from Burnout. And, you know, they came up, started digging through it, and just shouted, I'll buy it all. Here's the price, right? I had two of them in my hand. And I'm like, hey, I already got these two. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, oh, well, they didn't say I could buy them. They wanted those too. But the person at the sale said, hey, he's already got these in his hand. If he wants to buy them, I'm going to let him buy them. And I decided not to, which, you know, at least that person at the sale said that. That was kind of cool. Here's the one that hits me, but I don't, and some of you out there disagree with me, right? Bundling, like I said this right here. I was like, you know, these were $2 a piece. $2 a piece and selling them for $18.95 is a good deal. But I just said $1 a piece, and I'll take every single one on the table. A, because I thought they'd say yes, and B, because I didn't know what they'd sell for. I just figured I was gambling. I wanted to get out of there and go to the next one. I was surprised. I thought they'd be like $10 items, and I'd have to bundle them up. So I was happy about that. I obviously don't have a problem with bundling and getting stuff cheaper. I'm sorry, but if you don't, it's your prerogative. But if you don't, then you're giving yourself a pay decrease. And I also kind of I'm not doing those deals at 6 a.m. when it's dark outside. Sometimes I'll say, hey, you know, if I need to, I will. But if I know they're going to sell it, if it's an item that's going to sell, I don't do that. But that's personal choice to me, at any rate. Split old school versus new resellers. So they're saying that old school and new resellers are different. New resellers, I think they're saying that they're not going to haggle. It's like you either take it or you don't. That's not me. I like to haggle. I don't even care half the time. I just like to do it. But I've been doing a little bit more as honestly as I've been blessed over the years. I try to find people. I did this at a sale the other day. I was at a sale and stuff was overpriced for me to sell. But they had kids' clothes. Piles of them. 2 sweet ladies in there. You know they were digging for their grandkids. Because they were just digging through clothes that didn't have any resale value. And I bought their clothes for them. I try to identify the non-resellers and do that every once in a while. And I've been doing it more and more lately because you guys have been so great to me. So we'll see. I don't know. I've enjoyed the heck out of it, which is cool. I saw my dad do it at a sale the other day. It was awesome. He's like, he just offered to pay something for somebody, and I was like, yeah, that's a good pop. I've got a giant mess out here, y'all. With the cats. We're here today, not the dogs. This next one, I don't know if I've got this right. I think I pulled the right one. Polo, this is a stripe, so it's going to be this one. That's what I thought. I didn't check the color. I just looked at 2XL. So it's not this shirt back here. I got to take that one back in. It's this shirt here, Masters Collection, green striped. These are hit and miss. You got to figure out the right ones. Masters Collection is a good one. 2XL, sold for $34.95. See that logo? Usually it's good, but sometimes it's not, plus shipping. So I'm going to get to the one that I want to talk about at the end that's not on this list, but I've got a few little ones here that I think are interesting. One is the early bird debate, and I have people in my videos all the time because I'll go in and I'll go to a yard sale early. Around here, I'm sorry, but if I didn't, it would be rough. And I will always, I roll down there, if they're out there in the yard or whatever, I'll say, hey, I'd love to look early, no pressure, you know, whatever. A lot of times that's not on the video, so people don't see that. I always ask. And sometimes I won't even ask. If I am the first one there, there's nobody else around, I'll just pull my car up and sit there and I'll wait. And then when I see somebody else pull up, I'll roll down my window and say, hey, is it okay if I look early? Because I do want to be the first one there. And some people will say, I never, ever go to a yard sale early. And I'm like, hey, some people don't mind. Some people want it. Some people like it. Some people have been ready for an hour. You know, they're early and whatever. So, you know, I don't know. That's minor stuff. I do have a few more in here. I think I'm going to skip some of these. I want to look at, we'll get to the one that I want to talk about at the end. But these are some minor, I just don't even understand it. Authenticity and counterfeits, they have as number 9 as debates amongst resellers. To me, that's not a debate. If you're selling something you know is fake, you got a problem. Now that's different than, you know, fake stuff is different than bootleg stuff. And I know some people don't see the difference, but there definitely is a difference. I don't want to get into that though. Gurus and courses, I don't think there's much to 90% of gurus are scam. And I'm thinking of one that I think actually can be considered that because it's something that I don't know how to do. And it depends. There's Amazon stuff. I still say 90% minimum are scams. And I would run like heck. There's so much information out there, y'all. You don't need that stuff. Maybe it's backlog or bad business practice. More of an annoyance debate. Used to source 8 months out of the year and you've got the space to store the stuff and sell it off in Q4 or whatever. Go for it. You let that in, you know, get into your living space and whatever. I'm like, it's temporary for one. It's only in there because I emptied out that trailer and it's forcing me to get through it. Plus, it's my basement, so it's not exactly impossible, right? That's where we do Christmas down there and the kids play. But we don't normally go down there as a family, and it'll be cleaned out. Here's the one that applies to me, or whatever. I've also often said that with what I'm trying to do now, it's probably best that I use the SKU system. I still haven't decided if I'm going to or not, but whatever. I mean, to each their own, right? I've been doing it for 25 years. I might lose one item a year. I think people that use SKU systems probably lose one item a year. It just depends on your personality. Plus, if you have other people working in the business and stuff, that's not a huge debate for sure. The next one is right up there. It's creeping closer to the live selling versus static selling debate, in my opinion, and will only grow in controversy. And I don't think it should. Come on. You know, the dogs are nowhere to be found. What the heck? Which is why the kitties are in here today. How you doing? Your buddy left. You can't get on that shirt. At any rate, my two favorite kitties, Pepper and No Name. Inaugural baskets. These sold combined for $20 plus shipping. I love you, and I love that you're in here, kitty, but you get in trouble, so I'm about to kick you out. I think many of you probably have figured out what the next one's going to be. We'll pick one more item, maybe two here, and just get into it. This is, I gotta make sure I get the right one. Juniper Breeze. I think this is it. Let me look at the, maybe not a lotion. No, it's not. I don't think it is. Let me look real quick. I bought these at a sale thinking eBay because there was massive quantity of them. And they showed up in one of my Dipped It auctions. And Jess is like, you got so many? And I'm like, yeah. That's kind of why I want them on eBay, because it's one listing and it's no harder to do it. And we were getting, you know, $8, $9 a bottle over there for these because they're good. But this one sold for $24 plus shipping. And I snatched them all out of her bin. And that's not bad, $24 plus shipping. I bought them in a giant lot. Same exact thing as over there. They're $2 a bottle, a whole table full of a lot of these, but different types. It's like $1 a piece, I'll buy them all. I figured at the very least they're going to be worth like $10 a piece. And I was very surprised that this one is $24 a piece. Plus, excuse me, plus shipping. So the new debate that started before me, I got into the debate a little bit because I have started to use list easier, and I'm letting it play out over time. I'm not like pushing it on here like you better do it, because honestly, I think just like anything else, that over time this will become more of a fabric of what we do. And some people will choose not to do this. Some people will choose to do it. Some people will choose to do AI type listings on different places. The one I've chosen is AI listing at mass quantity. And there's a lot of arguments against it. Many of you make them in my comments all the time. Like, that's an INAD ready to happen, right? And I'm like, okay, I know personally I make mistakes on listings all the time. I'm like, I bet you this thing could do it better than me. So far, just an update, because we did those 41 hats using this, and I've put it all on hold because I'm going to do this. If nothing else, you can watch me as an experiment, right? But I need to reorganize to make it more optimal, and that's what we're doing right now. That's why I'm selling so much live and getting into that debate too, right? And creating space to do the sorting, because that's what makes it optimal. Because to me, it's not about AI listing, because you can do that with different things. You can do it on eBay. You can use whatever. You can optimize your chat GPT for free, whatever. To me, it is the mass quantity listings. I was watching somebody the other day that this number is hard to believe, but I trust the person who said it. They watched somebody list 14,000 items in a day. Now, I can only imagine that was niched down into whatever, but I don't know if it's cards or whatever it is, but I'm like, good night. And I've seen and heard people talking about thousands of listings a day. I'm nowhere near that, nor probably ever will I be. But we did do 41 at a time. And so far, sold 11 of them. And 10 of them have been delivered. And so far, no INADs anywhere. I've looked at all those listings after the fact, before the fact. To me, they're better than I could have possibly done. And I get INADs every once in a while, so I'll keep you updated on that. We will start our processes out there of doing what we're trying to do with certain specific things. Like I'm not doing an AI listing on this thing and non-multi-quantity or non-batched item kind of thing. I'm not doing that, and a lot of people never will. But it's going to be a part of my business. You can watch me try it. There are a lot of people who have signed up using that link, code Commonwealth, $30 off. And so far, the most negative comment, I've got 2 negative comments back so far for the people using it. And they really weren't that negative. They continued to use it. One wasn't happy that they had to change this actually is another topic. I'll say this really quick. They had to change from calculated shipping to their business policy shipping, which I've been advocating for years. eBay is now heavily advocating for this. They don't want you to use calculated shipping. It's my belief that they know this stuff's going to get incorporated into all of this, and it's not going to work well. Let's just say that. And it's not. So that's my thought process on why they're pushing it. There are other reasons they're pushing it is because it opens up your market. If you have a flat shipping rate, I'm not talking about using priority mail or flat rate. I'm talking about if you choose your flat rates for different weights or whatever, then it is going to open up your market to the entire country. It's going to be far better, and worldwide for that matter. And eBay will get more sales out of it. Now you'll eat cost on stuff that's going a long way away. I get that, and so you got to be careful when you do it. But that's where I think that thing is heading in the future of listing. And there will be people who jump in, who want to expand, who have massive sources and stuff, and that's who it's right for. Everybody else, I said, kind of wait and see, watch, be educated about it. Watch me do it, right? And I'll do it on a low level compared to these people because I don't want to buy warehouses and hire employees and all that. Never, ever, please. So I already did for the live selling part of it, which made sense. So, but this is a growing debate, and people have very fervent opinions about it, and I get it. I would just tell people, be open to it being bad, and be open to it being good. And just sit back in your lazy chair right there. Well, don't do that, work. And watch, and just see where it's going. I'm starting to see more and more. I saw somebody post something the other day, like, hey, I just listed these. I mean, there's like 5 totes. Is like, I just listed these all today. So it would have taken me 4 days to list this stuff, or 3 days or something like that. Did it all in a day. And they were new items in the package, right? And so people are like, they believe that can work. The other criticism, by the way, was from a golf club guy, buddy of mine. Well, I don't know if he's a buddy of mine, but acquaintance. We used to work together. And he said I don't know why I came back here. I don't have golf clubs here. But he's like, it does struggle right now with determining the shaft. The type of like graphite shaft and whatever. So it's not quite there on some things, but some things it definitely is. So it's going to be a wait and see for a lot of people. But if you ever do decide to go in, there is always that link. If it is right for you down below and use code Commonwealth, you can do that. And I'm not trying to, I like to experiment with this stuff and show people and then let people figure out for themselves what's right, what's not right for them. But man, people are dogmatic about this stuff. And I've tried to not do that. I have one buddy of mine, really good friend, great reseller. He's like, I'm never doing it, never in a month of Sundays and whatever. I'm like, okay, good. And you know what? He is a successful reseller. He will remain a successful reseller as well. Zippo Made in the USA is as plain Jane as they come. This one did not sell. It finally did sell, $9.45. Plus shipping for that Zippo. Many of you have been asking where Turner is and where my wife is. And Reagan's been down here a little bit. My wife's been sick for 4 days now and really didn't feel great before that, but wasn't sure if she'd sick. Reagan has been sick. She was sick on the last video and has got a little worse. It's okay. It's nothing big. Turner has been so busy. He's not been here for a lot of our videos. Plus, you've been seeing him out playing out in the field. But he said he wants to make a comeback one more time for Commonwealth Comedy in Q4. He misses his dollar bills. So we're going to do that, and you'll see them soon. And my wife said she would help me come ship today. So I will ship this. I will ship these right here. Look what else Jess tried to do. She tried to put these. We did a charity fundraiser over on Dibbed It with a few guys, Tony's Retro Plus and Pacific Picker and my buddy Uncle Bubba, and raised a bunch of money for St. Jude and for Ronald McDonald House. And Jess is like, we're going to put those in there. I'm like, no, I was like, I know it's charity. I know it's whatever. But like, there's no way I'm putting I got these for $1 at a sale. They are sealed popple puzzles. They're not worth a fortune. They're worth some decent money, put them together for sure. But I'm like, the truth be told, I wanted to list them on eBay so they would sit in here for a while because I absolutely love them. And that's what we're going to do. 1986 popple puzzles. So stinking cool. I would have bought them without being in the package, but the fact that I found them sealed is cool. So I'm going to list these here before I leave today. Get this shipped, get these shipped. Leave the rest for my wife to do while I go edit this video. At any rate, let me ask you one more time to tell me what you think is the biggest controversy amongst resellers today. Like as a whole. Not the stupid drama issues that we all don't want to deal with. But anyway, I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much for the support you give me. Thanks for dropping on by Dibbed It, even if you are on the other side of the live selling divide. And I've got friends just like that. So, people that would never ever live sell in a month of Sundays, and I got some who dabble in it, and I got some who went full time in it. I think it's all just part of the game, and we need to learn to live together and how to work around and off of each other in some ways, right? I have sourced in live sales, and if I was not a live seller, I would continue to do that because there's profit to be made. Anyway, I'm tired. I gotta get some work done. Thank y'all for joining us, and I can't wait to see you next.